Why we are the richest people in the world, but yet the poorest people in the world. Instead of eating at the table, we're eating under the table. We're eating under the table. Why? Because we don't want to hear the truth. We want to make it so that America the beautiful. Yes, America's ideal is beautiful, but what they've been doing is not beautiful. I don't care if you're black or white. It makes no difference. The poor white person is dying in Afghanistan, Libya, Vietnam, all over. They're dying. They're dying. The poor white man, the poor anybody, the Mexican, the whatever, it's all of us. And it's stupid for us to think that it's only one individual, but we're all in this. Hey, this is Janetta. And honey, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be a little bit hot on the press today because I want to share something with you that you did not know. And I want you to know. I want you to know and understand. So you know this is Africa Speaks. Hey, this is Janetta, BlackSeatRadio.com on Saturdays at 8 o'clock, Costa Rican time. Hey, check it out. And also, this is Africa Speaks. I want you to let me know what you think. Share it and let me know if you like it. Share it. Thank you for the people that have become my subscribers. I need more subscribers. I need many more people looking. You make sure you share it and let me know. Hey, now let's get started. Woo-hoo! Yeah. Have you ever heard about Muammar Gaddafi? And I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name exactly right, like they do in Arab, because he's an Arab. Okay, he's an Arab. And he was a Bedouin. He was born in the family of Bedouins. And Bedouins are people that live in tents out in the desert. And you usually see them, they have goats or other animals around, but mostly goats, I think. And that's what I saw when I went into Egypt, into that territory. I got to see some of the Bedouins and how they live. And that's the way he was raised. But I'm not going to talk about how he was raised because the video I'm going to show you is going to explain about Muammar Gaddafi, his life, his rule, his reign, how he was born, who he was born to. It's going to disclose some things about Muammar Gaddafi that you did not know. One of the things I want you to realize is when these people here, when these African leaders rise up and start doing things, their life is in danger. Their life is in direct danger. And what it says is that Muammar Gaddafi wasn't doing what the West wanted. And the West are people in Europe and America. And the West is America, United States of America, because really United States of America is part of the British Kingdom because that's where they came from. That's their heritage. That's their roots. I know we got a lot of other people there, but the West basically is built up, is the largest amount of population in the United States come from the West. And don't shout me down because I'm preaching real good. But this is what it is. Muammar Gaddafi was a threat to the United States, not because he was a threat of terrorism to the United States, because Muammar Gaddafi's country is actually, population-wise, it's not a big country. Most of the country is desert. And he made a paradise out of the desert. I want you to listen to this and understand what we killed. And we killed him. You killed him and I killed him because we are people living in the United States and our hands are full of blood and treachery. And with what's going on right now today, you would say the things that they said Muammar Gaddafi did, and they came in to get him because he was doing what he was doing. They were going to help his citizens because he was a threat to them and he mistreated them. And so they felt like their big brother needed to come in and they need to make a move. You know, one of the tricks was, I always wondered why they voted for or wanted Obama to come in as president. Because some of the things they pulled on Muammar Gaddafi, they could not have pulled it without Obama. A lot of things that they pulled on Africa, they could not have pulled it because of Obama. We are like always, we think because he's covered with chocolate, that person is doing things to uplift us, and he will be a promotion for the goals that we have as a people. And when I say as a people, I mean all people. Those of us strictly of African descent. Now, Muammar Gaddafi was not of African descent, but he considered himself as an African. He didn't hold himself out as an Arab. He was against a lot of things that the Arab nations had done. He was independent of that. He knew that he was in North Africa, and his goal was to unite Africa. And he was doing a pretty good job of it. And this is what his trouble was. He was going to make one currency Africa-wise. Do you know how many currencies Africa has? Africa has almost 50 currencies, maybe less, but really a high amount of currency. When I leave here to go to Kenya, which is right across the bridge, really, I got to change my money. Then if I leave Kenya to go to Somalia, I got to change my money. If I leave Somalia and go to Sudan, I got to change my money. Everywhere I go around here, I have to change my money. And they have lines driven here. They have lines drawn, this border and that border and this border. All of us look alike, and we can't cross the borders. We have more trouble. We can't do, you can't, if we stay separated like this, there's no way that we will ever get ahead. Now you can keep on thinking that you got your little house and your little car and everything's all right with the world, and you keeping your head in the sand and your butt out. You have to think about your generation, the next one coming after you. Why we are the richest people in the world, but yet the poorest people in the world. Instead of eating at the table, we're eating under the table. We're eating under the table. Why? Because we don't want to hear the truth. We want to make it so that America the beautiful. Yes, America's ideal is beautiful, but what they've been doing is not beautiful. I don't care if you're black or white. Makes no difference. The poor white person is dying in Afghanistan, Libya, Vietnam, all over. They're dying. They're dying. They're going to war. And they're dying. So it's not just what's being done to the black man. The poor white man, the poor anybody, the Mexican, the whatever. It's all of us. And it's stupid for us to think that it's only one individual. But we're all in this. And what's going over right now in Palestine and Israel? 35,000 people, women and children being killed, and we support going and killing Gaddafi because he was supposed to have been a torture to the people that lived in his country. It wasn't no 35,000. He didn't bomb anybody, but yet therefore he was a threat. But when we do it, when America does it, and they go into areas like Vietnam, where Vietnam right now, the people have to be suffering from Agent Orange. If my husband suffered from Agent Orange, and a lot of young men that I knew, and some men now that are old and are suffering from Agent Orange, then you know what's going on in Vietnam with the people that lived there where they sprayed the Agent Orange. I'm just talking about people that went there and was under the Agent Orange for a little bit of while. I'm not gonna carry on too long because I'm emotional about this. I'm just sick and tired. I don't like to say those words because I'm not sick and I'm not tired physically. But I'm very, very upset about the system. And I'm very upset about those of us who buy into this system and don't investigate and look at these lies. How many lies are we going to listen to? How many lies are we going to believe? And it doesn't make any difference. I don't give a doggone shoot whether it is Republican or Democrat. Listen to the lies. Listen to what they've done in Haiti. You don't even know what Haiti's story is. You just look at the headlines of gangs running around. Those are desperate people there saying no more. You can't do it anymore. But I won't get on Haiti. Let's look at Africa. Let's look at Libya. But we're all in this mess. World globalism, imperialism, domination. And they're using us to kill us. And then we're paying for it. How come we're so stupid? What makes us think? And they got us looking at all this thing, but you can't say anything about what's going on in Israel because you're anti-Semitic. There is no such thing as anti-Semitic. I don't give a doggone what you say. All those millions of Africans, they killed 600 million of them. How long did that Holocaust last? 10 years? And a few million? And they're still killing Africans. They're still killing people in other places. They're still killing people in Afghanistan. They killed them. They went to Afghanistan 20 years to do what? To walk away from it and leave a mess? Because they said they went in there for the freedom of the women and the children to change Afghanistan into what? Have you ever questioned it? I'm going to tell you something. You're going to listen to something right now about Muammar Gaddafi, and I want you to think about it. Was it worth it, that country right now? It used to be Africans were welcome, black Africans were welcome into Libya during Muammar Gaddafi's time. But right now, if an African goes in there, they're capturing them and use them as slaves and all that kind of stuff. They got slave trading going on in Libya. Ask the Libyan people, go there and ask them, are they getting free education? If you got married, Muammar Gaddafi gave you a house free of charge. We don't even own a house. If we buy a house, we got to pay so much taxes on it, and it's not free of charge. We don't own anything. And we went and squashed that instead of using that as an example of how we could live in this world. Even if he did rule from 1969 until he was massacred. Yes, massacred. With the help of our beloved President Obama and the Wonder Woman, Hillary Clinton. I would like to tell you what I called her, but I'm not going to say it. I want you to listen to this video, and I'm going to shut my mouth. It might be a little bit long, this tape, but I want you, this video, but I want you to, you tell me what you think about it. You tell me what you can do. I mean, if you can't do nothing, Grandma, but pray. You pray for what's going on in this world. You stop praying for Sammy and Joey, and you pray for what's going on in that street. You pray because the power of God lives inside of you, and you telling me that you got the power? Well, use it. Let's use it. Because we can break this thing up if we stop putting our head in the sand. Come on, what can I do? You can do more than what can I do. All you have to do is be a drip in the bucket, a drip in a tub. If all of us get together. Now, this is not a hoogie joogie or a Kanye Twitty or Kanye, whatever his name is. Or what's that guy's name? Puffy. It's not none of that stuff and all that junk and all that stuff that we're listening to. And our kids' lives are going down the drain. Right now, they're dying faster than we did. I'm 81 years old and I've buried a whole bunch of young people. It doesn't make sense. Our next generation, how are we going to let them survive? They're killing them with everything. The junk they see, the music, the food. So you listen to this and you think, you keep on telling me they love you and how free you are. All right? Roll them.
This is a story of the rise and fall of the enigma that was Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, the longtime ruler of Libya. The man known to history as Muammar Gaddafi was born in 1942 into a Bedouin family in a tent in the Libyan desert. His family were members of the Katatfa tribe, Arabized Berbers, who were exiled from Cyrenaica, the eastern part of Libya. Stories from childhood told by his own father of the bitter struggle of the Libyan people against their Italian colonizers shaped Gaddafi's earliest revolutionary mind. According to him, his grandfather was killed fighting the Italians and his father was wounded during the First World War. As for Libya itself, after the Second World War, it was ceded to France and the United Kingdom. the UK favored the emergence of a monarchy, and there were the Senussi dynasty, which ruled the country since its independence in 1951 under the monarchy of King Idris I. King Idris I remained loyal to Western countries, and he promoted British economic and military interests. In 1959, oil was discovered in Libya. Within a few years, Libya was generating a huge amount of money from oil revenues and went from one of the world's poorest nations to one of the wealthiest. But the extraction was controlled by foreign petroleum companies, which set prices to the advantage of their own domestic consumers and benefited from a half share in the revenue. The government of King Idris I also had received millions for allowing a United States air base to be built and maintained in Libya. This was the Libya that Muammar Gaddafi grew up in. Gaddafi's family were nomads who lived in tents and made their living growing barley and trading livestock. As the youngest of 6 children and being the only son, Muammar received an abundance of loving attention from his parents and siblings. When he was 9 or 10 years old, his father sent him to school for the first time in Sirte, a town of about 7,000 people. While there, he went to a Quranic school and throughout his life remained influenced by the religious teaching that he had received there. He once said that everything including the atomic bomb could be found in the Quran, which, although he was a devout Muslim, he often used as a political tool, interpreting it to justify his own theories. When Muammar was just 14 years old, his family moved to the Fazan, where he attended the Seba Preparatory School. During this period, Gamal Abdul Nasser, the former leader of Egypt, was promoting Arab pride and Arab unity, and the young Gaddafi was greatly moved and influenced by Nasser's message. In these formative years, Gaddafi devoured the revolutionary ideas which poured out of Nasser's Egypt, listening avidly to Cairo radio's Voice of the Arabs and memorizing Nasser's speeches urging Arab unity and vilifying Western imperialism. In fact, young Gaddafi's most prized possession was his copy of Nasser's philosophy of the revolution. Muammar Gaddafi was only 17 years old when he first began dreaming of leading a revolution in Libya. At school, he led demonstrations to protest the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, to protest the French testing of atomic bombs, as well as demonstrations in favor of the anti-colonial revolution in Algeria. Subsequently, he was expelled for his political activity and finished his education at Misrata, where he founded another group of like-minded students. Gaddafi would join the military academy in 1964 and attended part-time courses in history and geography at Benghazi University. However, he did not complete any degree. While at the academy, Gaddafi had a deep distrust of older army officers, and he concentrated on men his own age, with whom he created the Free Unionist Officers, a group that was devoted to the goal of Arab unity. Muammar Gaddafi would spend several months in 1966 at Beaconsfield on a signals training course. Gaddafi graduated in 1966 and then spent several months in Great Britain at the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst. Around this time, the army and the rapidly growing middle class started to truly resent the power and conservative policies of King Idris I. He and his government were accused of endemic cronyism and corruption. According to various analysts, during the monarchy, the nation was mired in backwardness in education, health, housing, social security, among other issues. By 1969, Muammar Gaddafi and his friends were ready to stage their coup d'etat. In this instance, Gaddafi took advantage of the 6 weeks leave he had accumulated and set the date for the takeover for March 12. However, it turned out that the legendary Egyptian musician Kulthum was scheduled to perform in Libya that night. All of Libya's political and military leaders would be there at the concert all night with their families. So out of respect for this musician and wishing to avoid the awkwardness of arresting the leaders in front of their wives and children, Gaddafi postponed the revolution. After another false start a couple of weeks later, the coup was rescheduled for August 13, when the entire army high command would be together attending a conference on the importance of air defense. However, Gaddafi's supporters felt they were not yet prepared to seize control of important army units in Tripoli, so the takeover was aborted again. Finally, on September 1, 1969, they were ready. Gaddafi and his fellow officers launched a coup against the king while he was in Turkey for medical treatment. Here, the king's nephew, the crown prince Hassan as-Senussi, was set to become king on September 2, when the abdication of King Idris that was dated on August 4 was set to take effect. But before the end of the day, on 1 September, the monarchy had been abolished and the Libyan Arab Republic was proclaimed, with the crown prince being placed under house arrest. Gaddafi and his units had successfully taken control of the military and the country without killing a single person.
إن الشعب الإنجليزي يدرك تماما إن قاعدته باتت في حيز العدم بعد ثورة الشعب الليبي، ونحن ندرك أيضا إن الشعب الأمريكي الذي يحتفظ بقاعدة فوق أرضنا.
When the Americans left Wheeler's Air Base in June of 1970, Gaddafi also ended arms contracts with British companies. The 25,000 remaining Italians and Jews who were in Libya were expelled and their property was confiscated. The Italian government, needing Libyan oil, did not protest. Arab specialists replaced foreigners and Western script was banned in public signs and official publications. Foreign banks were nationalized. Gaddafi sought to improve Libya's oil sector, and so in October of 1969 he proclaimed that the prevailing trade terms for Libya's oil were unfair and were benefiting foreign corporations more than the Libyan state. In this regard, he then demanded renegotiation of contracts, threatening to shut off production if the oil companies refused to comply. He memorably challenged foreign oil executives by telling them that people who have lived without oil for 5,000 years can live without it again for a few years in order to attain their legitimate rights. This gambit by Gaddafi proved successful, and Libya became the first developing country to secure a majority share of the revenues from its own oil production. Other nations soon followed this precedent, and the 1970s Arab petrol boom began. Gaddafi's revolution immediately cost Britain an estimated $100 million in lost oil infrastructure investments and access to military bases. Frustrated British officials privately acknowledged that Gaddafi's revolution was a popular one and that he was a charismatic leader. Meanwhile, the United States had been less badly damaged by Gaddafi's revolution despite the rhetoric of President Richard Nixon's administration. Nonetheless, with the loss of lucrative Libyan oil concessions for Western companies, and with Gaddafi soon accused of funding countless governments and movements around the world deemed antagonistic to Western interests, both Britain and the United States quickly began to formulate scenarios to bring Gaddafi's apparently anti-imperialist regime to an end. Although advocating for a socialist form of governance and economics, Gaddafi's new government rejected communism largely due to its atheistic roots. Gaddafi imposed an austere form of Arab socialism, revising the legal code to conform to Sharia law and banning alcohol, prostitution, nightclubs, and Christian churches. Like other leaders in Africa, such as Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and Kenneth Kaunda, Gaddafi devoted much time to devising what he believed was a unique vision of society, publishing 3 volumes of a green book on how to implement it. Based on Islam, it was called the Third Universal Theory and purported to provide an alternative to capitalism as well as atheistic communism. Gaddafi's Green Book was taught in schools and became required reading for all Libyans. Under Gaddafi's leadership, Libya, or the Great Socialist People's Libyan Arab Jamahiriya as he called it, emerged as a prosperous nation well ahead in terms of traditional notions of development compared to most other African and Arab nations. Throughout his tenure, ambitious social programs were launched in the areas of education, health, housing, public works, and subsidies for electricity and basic foodstuffs. These policies led to a substantial improvement in the living conditions of Libyans, from being one of the poorest countries in Africa to being the continent's leader in its Human Development Index by the year 2011. However, some Libyan citizens have argued that the quality of education and healthcare was appalling. Gaddafi's government had legislation providing for a grant to newlyweds to buy their first apartment so as to help start a family. However, there are claims that the process was tedious and bureaucratic to the extent that not many people bothered to follow it through. Anyways, the Gaddafi regime embarked on one of humanity's greatest developmental projects ever, the Great Man-Made River Project, to make water available to the whole country. As is known, Libya is a desert region, and Gaddafi's plan to ensure that every citizen had access to water was through the Great Man-Made River Project. In 2009, Libya was reported to be on track to achieve the Millennium Development Goals by 2015. In fact, in 2010, the United Nations Development Programme considered Libya a high development country in the Middle East and North Africa. This translated status meant a literacy rate of about 88%, a life expectancy of 74 years, gender equality, among several other positive indicators. At a national level, Gaddafi was able to deal with two central dilemmas characteristic of Libyan society. On the one hand, the difficulty of exercising control over the tribes, and on the other, the fragmentation of society into diverse and sometimes opposite tribal and regional groupings. Muammar Gaddafi had the ability to hold together these vast territories in Libya.
Now that you've seen this video, and I'm apologize because it's so long, but you got to listen to it. Now that you've heard this video about that big bad wolf Muammar Gaddafi, a strange man that was strange, a man that they say they don't know what his legacy would be. But I'm telling you one thing, his people hadn't suffered like they're suffering now. They haven't suffered like they suffer now. So you tell me. Now, if you don't say anything about this video, if you don't give them remarks, then I know you don't give a, you know what? You don't give a hoot. I'll say it like, my white friends say. You don't give a hoot. But if you love your children, if you love your country, if you love yourself, if you love your neighbor, if you have all that love, and you so holy and Christian and Islamic and Jewish and all these different religions and things, if you got that much love, because all of them teach about love. There's not one of them that don't teach about love. If you really have love for your brother, then we're going to do something about what's going on and stop sticking our head in the mud. And this is not a cry for you to march, because we have marched too doggone much. We have marched too doggone much. I tell you what it is. It's a call for you to get down on your knees and plead that things change in this world. And I'm telling you something, we do that. That's a political rally. If all those people that get out there and march, if they start praying and believing that it's got to happen, the windows of heaven will open up. That's what the Bible says. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says that God says that you should prove him that he won't do what he said he will do. If he doesn't, after we do it, then you can throw the Bible away. I don't want no excuses. Don't be telling me it's not in his timing. It's in your control, your power. It's in our power together. We can do it. So I'm telling you, if you hear about them killing any of these leaders that have kicked France out, you know what the agenda is. It's nothing about helping the African people. It's about helping themselves with the mineral, the gold, and all that. And you, American, you poor England, Europe, you poor Germany, you're not getting any of this money. You're not getting it. And your taxes are even higher. $41 trillion in tax. Who gonna pay that? And they're talking about not letting you have your Social Security because of you made it go broke. Oh, please, deliver me from this. Ooh. Deliver me. But hey, this is Janetta. I ain't mad. I'm glad. And this is part 1. We got a part 2. All right. So hang in there. I don't really care if only one of y'all look at it. Pass the word on. I do care, but pass the word on. All right. So I'll be talking to you later. This is Janetta. Woo-hoo. See you real soon. Check it out. Love ya.